This is Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC, here live on 99.3 KTIA. I'm J. Michael McCoy. My co-host today, the lovely Lila Stafford, in the house, who I just saw on Facebook. Ashley is packing her bags.
Yeah.
And she's, when is her due date?
It's the 18th, but she called me today kind of in tears and said that she might deliver tomorrow.
Really?
So I'm going to take her to the doctor tomorrow, and her blood pressure's going up. Her feet are gigantic. She's got retaining a lot of water.
Yeah.
And anyway, they're going to check some things out. And if they're like they are today, they'll deliver tomorrow.
And they know it's a girl.
Yeah.
And she named her Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Where does that name come from? I love the name.
No, I do too, but we're all Republicans. I go, you could have thought of a Republican, Ashley. And she said, and she's so young, she didn't even know who Kennedy is. She said, well, I just always thought of Jackie O.
Yeah.
And she said, and I think she was a beautiful woman. So
well, that's true. Ryan's producing today, and my special guest is a dear, dear, dear friend of mine, Mike. Mike worked with me 20 years ago at a radio station. And Mike taught me a tremendous amount about sobriety long before I knew what it was. In fact, the truth of the matter is, when you and I met, I probably had only been drinking about a year. I wasn't even drinking heavily yet.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because you came to work with me like in 94, 95?
It was 95.
95, okay. Mike is, as you probably can tell by the voice, is an excellent radio announcer. And he was what we call the graveyard shift. He worked midnight to 6 on a radio station that I then did mornings on, and I got to deal with Mike's wonderful attitude and personality. And if you're not watching, that's in air quotes. Every morning from 5:30 to 6, because the truth of the matter is, when you work all nights on a radio station, it's pretty lonely. There's nobody else around. It's just you and the phones. And if a listener would make Mike mad, man, did I hear about it. And then what you did is you hung around for like an hour.
Well, that's because I was trying to get away home, and that you'll figure out, when because I can't drive.
All right, so if you had not, you had a relapse, and if you had not had a relapse, you'd have 13 years sober.
Correct.
But right now, you're about ready to hit number 8.
Yep, it'll be 8 years, August 5th.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks from tomorrow. Woo. And so, we're trying to mess him up here. Trying to, right before you get your sobriety birthday, the pressure comes on. But Mike's got a great story, and he's going to share it with us. And one of the things that makes his story interesting is Mike has cerebral palsy and has always had cerebral palsy. But yet, and I hate to say this out loud because his head is going to grow by the feet, he's really smart. I mean, he's smarter than average. He's very good with math. He's very good with personal communications. He's very good with finances. But with someone with cerebral palsy, you had a hard time walking. Your appearance is not normal.
No.
And you could never drive.
No.
Do you remember when I tried to get you to get your driver's license?
Yeah, I thought that was hysterical.
I was gonna pull some strings or something, Lila. You know me, J. Michael McCoy. I can do anything. I was gonna try to get him a driver's license. Well, it wouldn't help because he couldn't see. But Mike would take his bike everywhere. 10 months out of the year, he'd take his bike everywhere. All right, so take us back to a very, very tough childhood in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Well, I come from the original family, and I say that, the children that my mother and father had together, they were married in 1955. They were both high school dropouts, and by the time my mother was 19, she had 2 kids. And so there was a total of 5 of us. My mother did have a child that was stillborn a couple years before me, but there was 5 of us in the family, and I was right in the middle. I had 2 older brothers and an older sister and my younger brother. And we grew up in a section of Fort Dodge called Bobtown. It's by the river, down by the river. I grew up about 3 blocks from the Des Moines River on the opposite side of the flats on the northwest side of town. We lived there probably till I was about 14. My parents split up.
What was that neighborhood like?
Bobtown?
It was the Bottoms.
Yeah, it was basically the Bottoms, what you would refer to in Des Moines as the Bottoms.
Yeah.
Or maybe the rough east side, if you will.
Yeah, not just the east side, the rough east side.
Right. It wasn't no place you wanted to play around if you weren't from there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it's still that way.
Yeah.
Because it's on the opposite side of the river from the poorest part of Fort Dodge. what they call the Pleasant Valley area, or the Flats, as it's commonly called in town.
Yeah, and for those of you that are listening on the national show, we're talking about Fort Dodge, Iowa, which is about an hour and a half northwest of the capital city of Des Moines, which we're broadcasting live from. Go ahead.
And then, it's hard for me to describe it because I have lots of good memories from my childhood. But there's also parts of it that probably aren't so good. But when you grow up and all you know is that, you tend to think it's normal.
Yeah.
And back then, people didn't bring their business out in the street. You just didn't. What happened in the house stayed in the house, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I grew, because of my cerebral palsy, I was not allowed to make excuses. And my two older brothers, God rest their souls, because they're both passed and have been for some time.
And did they pass from addictions?
No, I think it's addictive behavior that led to it.
Okay.
But my oldest brother, Phil, as I've told you before, he was a Marine. And I think he was an angry Marine. He had some other issues of his own. And my brother, Raymond, who was a couple years younger than him, he was 101st Airborne Special Forces.
Wow.
And he was one of those people that did things that aren't in history books, if you catch my drift.
Sure, he's Special Forces.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is before they had Navy SEALs and all that stuff.
Right.
And so we grew up, I grew up with that, and, always battling the cerebral palsy. And I wish anti-bullying campaigns would have been around when I was a kid. But in essence, it made me stronger.
So tell me how kids bullied you when you were growing up with cerebral palsy.
Oh, you get the usual, what you might expect. Crippled. My wife's going to be upset with me for using this word. Retard. Things like that.
But scholastically, you were actually ahead of your grade.
Yeah.
What did that do to your self-esteem?
Oh.
It's a good question. I think it did a number of things to me for my self-esteem. It kind of lowered it a little bit, but it also made me fight much harder to prove that I wasn't what they said I was.
Yeah. I'll use what Carl always says in the program. I have the self-confidence of a size of Manhattan, and I have the insecurity the size of a pea. So, and I would say Mike is the same. Incredibly insecure, but very, very confident. Very confident.
Okay.
I mean, there wasn't a project that we couldn't put in front of Mike that he wouldn't finish. It might take him literally 2 or 3 hours. How long does it take to do a 60-second commercial? 7, 8 minutes? You might work on one for an hour.
Yeah.
But it would be, Lila, it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I won't put anything, especially when it comes to that, I won't put anything out there with my name on it that's not right.
Yeah. Well, but it's
good.
beyond right. It's perfect
Yeah.
in your
perfection.
mind. Okay,
In my
I'm
mind,
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, and it's just, I think that affected it a lot.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, as small as I am, I'm 5'7", weigh 140 pounds, and I was smaller than that in school. I played football, I wrestled. There was a time in my life as an adult, I boogie boarded and attempted to learn how to surf.
Oh.
I didn't know any better. Like I've told Mac once before, when you're born with something like cerebral palsy, it's your normal. You don't know any different.
Yeah.
You don't know you're different.
So when the kids would bully you, what would you think? I mean, why you'd go home and tell your mother, "Hey, these kids called me these names." What would she say?
Turn the other cheek.
Okay. Yeah, your mom was a tough old broad, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we lost her just here, 6 months ago?
January 25th.
January 25th. Okay. Well, actually, almost exactly 6 months ago.
Yeah, she was a tough old bird.
Yeah, she was.
You have
Thank
to-
goodness.
Well, my maternal grandmother, her mother, for an extended period of time, raised 6 girls during the Depression by herself.
Whoa.
She didn't meet my grandfather, whom I refer to as my grandfather, until he was like 40. And my grandfather took on all 6 girls and raised them. Because my mom's birth father passed away when she was about a year old. So my mom never knew him. As far as she knew, Grandpa Ray, as I used to call him, Grandpa Barnett, was dad.
Yeah.
And he just put everybody else first.
Yeah.
All right, so raised with cerebral palsy, but you still wrestled, you still played football. Did you achieve in those areas? Now, here's the question. Did you achieve at the level they wanted you to, or was your achievement because you did it and you were out there doing it?
My achievement was to prove that I could do it. Same as riding a bicycle. You know, I have memories of me riding a bicycle and how I learned that would probably scare most parents to death. You know, my sister stuck me on a bicycle. My older sister, who's 4 years older than me, stuck me on a bicycle when I was like 7 years old and pushed me down a hill.
Whoa.
You're either going to learn how to ride it or you're going to crash.
Yeah.
And that's how my life was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Would it be fair to say, and this interview may get a little funny sometimes because I know you, and I absolutely apologize if I say something offensive. You know that. I love you.
I know that.
But you've always had a chip on your shoulder.
Sure.
Now, in the last few years, you've come to equalize that chip. I don't think it's there like it was nearly 20 years ago.
No. I think the reason for that is I let go of a lot of the anger and a lot of the resentment through my recovery that were giving me that chip. I'm certainly not naive enough to think that it's completely removed, because it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not.
What kind of anger? What was it about?
Oh, not being accepted, not being able to achieve to the level I wanted. I'm my own worst critic.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Perfectionist.
That's just the way it is.
I don't know if you quit over this or if you took some time off, but I remember I was really worried about you because Stu, or Mike, we called him, his nickname is Stu. He thought that he didn't get live broadcasts because of the way he looked. And that was never the truth. But there was no way I could convince him of that. Midnight to 6 guys don't get live broadcasts. It's just the way it works. But I remember you were really upset about that. I don't know, was it Dot Fest or something we were doing, and you were livid.
Wait,
Do you remember that?
I can remember it and I remember leaving a message on your voicemail a couple months ago when I was kind of doing some 4-step work.
Wow.
I remember what it was is I couldn't get the remotes that paid. I was only getting the remotes that were station promotions that didn't put money in my pocket.
Okay.
And I thought, oh God, that made me so angry.
Yeah.
And no offense to you, but this is part of it. I remember one time, you know how the offices were upstairs?
Yeah.
And we're all sitting upstairs, and you were talking to one of our sales reps. I won't mention his name out of kindness, and he just happened to be the one that was in the conversation. But you were talking to one of our sales reps, and you were saying that I couldn't do a remote at a particular establishment, which happened to be a bar downtown, and it was because the owner of the bar didn't like the way my eye looked. And I was standing in the hallway behind you, and you didn't even see me. That's how my brain works. As I was explaining to Lila, I have somewhat of an eidetic memory.
I remember
weird.
that.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember the salesperson. I'm sure if you told me off, but yeah, don't say his name.
You know what? I'm sitting here thinking. You mentioned something about your looks, and you just said there's nothing wrong with your looks.
Well,
I looked a lot different. This is 20 years ago.
yeah, Mike has had an incredible job done on his teeth. He's got a beautiful set of choppers. Before he absolutely didn't. And what else have you had fixed?
Well, yeah, Mac was right. I mean, before I got my teeth done, I had about $6 grand. I've had about $6 grand worth of work done on my teeth.
Yeah.
But before that, it literally looked like I bit a brick. You
Yeah.
know, it was like that's what it looked like. Okay. And my eyes, and I'm not, you know, I could even show you. You see when I take my glasses off, my right eye, how it wanders,
Yeah.
and it's all red. And see that, for whatever reason, makes it difficult for me to be out in the public eye like that, because people don't see me. They don't see the handicap. They don't know what's wrong with me. They just used to think I was drunk or something.
Yeah, and you sound normal.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, you walk like you're stumbling. I remember Rob Borsellino when the ALS came on him. Now he was in recovery.
Yeah.
And people thought he was drinking again because of the way the
I
ALS
remember
was
that, yeah.
affecting the way he walked and talked.
Yeah.
All right, Mike is my guest today. 8 years sober next month. So he gets out of high school. But someplace between age 7, when his sister pushed him down the hill on a bicycle, and when he graduated from high school, he tasted alcohol for the first time. And he smoked a little doobie for the first time. What was that like, and how did that impact him? Later on, the ending of this story, and it's really not an ending because it's ongoing, but it's incredible where Mike has come from. It's Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening to KTIA, Iowa.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
See 'em here, see 'em there. You got bad credit, we don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Google Powell CDC, you'll be able to check them out. Powell CDC is an outpatient program here in the midst of central Iowa, and you're welcome to check it out. And what we always say is you now know somebody inside the recovery business, Lila and I. So when you have that tough situation with your brother, your mother, your spouse, your kid, your grandkid, your neighbor, your pastor, somebody in the church, and you want to be confidential,
So, you know, got a can of beer, can of Pabst, if I remember correctly. And
The good stuff.
Yeah, really? And some wild turkey. And,
Oh, my.
made our own little, whatever you call them. And I drank like 3 or 4 of those. And I got buzzed, and I went home and started dancing around, and it felt great.
How did it make you feel based on your cerebral palsy? Did it make you feel like you had no disability?
No, but it did free me a little bit. As I've told you before, and you told me today, you can't believe that, but I really am a shy person.
Yeah, he says he's a shy. Do you think he's shy?
No.
You've known him
Yeah.
for an hour now. Okay, see, I told you.
But
Lila never lies.
To me, it was the great equalizer.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
Especially when you got further along into the high school part. Because
Absolutely.
yes, I played football, and yes, I wrestled, and yes, I was in the student council, but that was 8th and 9th grade.
Yeah.
And you hit 10th grade, and all of a sudden you can't play football no more because everybody's twice as big as you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you can't wrestle anymore because you're going to get murdered, basically. And you can't be on student council anymore because you're not, quote unquote, the popular kids from the north side.
Yeah. Yeah, you said that you went junior high to senior high, you went from a B+ to A- student to a barely getting by.
Yeah.
And why was that?
Didn't care.
You didn't care if you graduated?
No.
Okay. So we make this clear. I mean, where I grew up, I imagine you too, Lila, Ryan probably, there was no question we graduate.
Yeah.
The question was how many years did we go to college?
Yeah.
You're telling me that in your life, back in 1980, whenever this was, it didn't matter if you graduated or not.
Not to me. Because I knew ever since I was probably 10 years old what I wanted to do for a living. I already knew.
Which was?
Be on the radio.
Radio, okay.
Because I used to sit at home and, make tapes, and me and my sister used to do fake radio shows. And I really don't mean to toot my own horn here, but I know you know this. It's one of those innate abilities that you're either born with or you're not.
Right.
Not everybody can be on the radio.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was just given that gift.
And the other thing that was so amazing, and I don't know why this is amazing, it makes all the sense in the world, but you couldn't hear his disability.
Yeah.
He just sounded like a great disc jockey with a big
Right.
voice, and he knew music, and he had the rhythm, and he just knew how to do it.
Yeah, cool.
Like for me, when I do production or produce a show, I don't have to think about it. It's there.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I wanted to do. So college was not that important because at an early age, I figured out, well, even if I drop out, I can get my GED and go to community college and be on the radio.
So what was your first radio job?
My first radio job was in 86. What I actually got paid for was in 86.
Which was where? Up in Fort Dodge?
Yeah, KKZ.
And how did that feel?
Awesome.
Because you were how old at that time? 86.
21, 22.
21. So you had really reached. It wasn't a bucket list. It was a milestone that you planned on participating with the rest of your life.
Yep.
Plus, and these are my words, not yours. I don't think you've ever said this to me. Plus, all of a sudden now, it wasn't just the great equalizer. Now you were above because you were on the radio. You were a celebrity.
All these people that used to bully me and make fun of me all of a sudden looked up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could walk into a bar at the age of 22 and not pay for a drink.
And talk about now. Let's go back to the alcohol now. So when were you fully enraged in your alcoholism?
Probably my sophomore year of high school.
Wow. Did you ever get kicked out of school for drinking?
No.
Did you drink with other kids?
Yes.
So that was where you had your own little group of guys
Yeah,
that you ran with?
that's just what kids did.
Yeah.
We had kegers. We went and got 12 packs and put them in the car and went to the park, smoked a little pot, did whatever, threw Frisbee. When you don't fit in with the cool kids, and that was my thing. See, those were the only kids that would accept me because they didn't want nothing from me. They didn't need nothing from me.
Yeah, they didn't judge you.
Nope.
And it's so funny in so many situations, if you go back to your 25, 30-year class reunions, it's those kids that have been incredibly successful. And the hot, high-class, highbrow, rich kids fail.
I always told my kids, you be nice to the ones that you consider to be a nerd because they're the ones that are going to be taking care of you when you're older.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and this may
Yeah.
sound a little vain, and we were talking about this off air, but my 30-year high school reunion is coming up in September. I'm not going. I don't have any desire to do it because I don't live in that world anymore,
Yeah.
Right.
neither physically or mentally.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and I know this is going to sound vain, so I'm going to apologize up front. You know, I'm almost 50 years old. I still have all my hair. It's not gray, and I weigh the same now I did when I graduated from high school.
That would make me want to go.
So, you know, I told one of my dear friends from school, I sent her an IM on Facebook. I said, "See what all you girls missed out on? You just would have had to wait a few more years for me to get my act together." That's all.
Right. Mike is my guest today on Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC. When was the first time you remember alcohol having a consequence for you? Was it high school? Was it shortly after high school? Obviously, you've never had a DUI.
No, but I've had 3 public intoxes.
And is that riding your bicycle somewhere?
Just walking.
Just walking.
Yeah.
And were you a pain in the butt when the cops tried to stop you? Or, I mean, why would they hassle you?
Well,
and I'm a big supporter of the police. I don't get me wrong. But
you know, I don't, and there's a lot of different factors for that.
Okay.
One is, and I know that, you know, one of your affiliates is a Fort Dodge station, so I'm going to tread lightly. But it's one of those things, you're a law enforcement in a small town, and you don't have much to do. So you're going to follow people around that you know are targets and easy targets.
Yeah.
So did you have any public intoxes once you moved out of Fort Dodge?
Nope.
So really, when you moved out of Fort Dodge, a lot of your identity issues went away.
Right. Because I didn't have to be Phil and Ray's little brother anymore.
Okay.
I didn't have to be, you know, my brother was ex-Green Beret. There was expectations with that.
Yeah.
If somebody, you know, got in your face and you didn't fight back and you didn't get in a tussle, it was not looked upon kindly.
Did you get in fights, physical fights?
All the time.
And why?
Because you don't disrespect me in any way, shape, and form. And if you do that, there's consequences, and I'm going to show you what those are.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want you to be arrogant, but I want you to be honest. Could you kick most people's behinds?
It's a 50-50 split.
Okay. Okay. That was an honest answer.
Because, to be honest with you, again, you know, I had my brother who was ex-Special Forces. He taught me a trick or two.
Yeah. But
you know what I'm saying?
plus you're 100 and what'd you say, 30 pounds?
135.
I mean, good heavens. I have sides of beef that I cook on the weekend that weigh less than that, or more than that. All right. So tell me when the first time so you move out of Des Moines, you're doing radio, you're doing good. How did alcohol impact your life and drugs impact your life as you moved into your late 20s, early 30s?
Well, it was to a point where my life became unmanageable, and I can't tell you exactly when that happened because I don't know because it took me forever to recognize it.
Okay.
I think it does most people.
You know,
Yeah.
it became unmanageable. You know, I couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't live life on life's terms, so to speak. I didn't know how. And I had no desire to do it. You know, I've always marched to the beat of a different drummer. Even in almost 8 years sobriety, I still do.
Yeah, he does.
You know, and that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but that's who I am.
One of my favorite, well, and it shouldn't be one of my favorite, but one of my outstanding memories of Mike was when he was on a local radio station here. And I knew he was upset with the management, and you didn't like the format either, as I recall.
No.
And so he decided one day he was going to quit, but he was going to go out in a ball of fire. And I sat there and listened to this guy on the radio just slam by name his bosses. And I remember calling him up on the hotline going, dude, what are you doing? And he said, I'm quitting. I said, yeah, no kidding, you're quitting.
It's just, and I'm still that way in my recovery, okay? But, I mean, I posted a poem by Chief Tecumseh on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and I meant every word of it when I ran across it. You know, respect all men, grovel to none. And that's who I am through and through.
My guest today is Mike. He would have 13 years altogether. How many years did you go out for research after you were in for 5?
8.
So you were in for 5, sober for 5, out for 8, and now you will have been back in sobriety for 8 years.
Yep.
That's got to be a big deal, that 8 and 8.
It's just another day.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah.
See, I drank for 16 years, and I can tell you that 16-year chip should God bless me with enough years of sobriety and enough days to count that, that's going to mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
It really will, because then I would have equalized that time that I wasted in my life consuming alcohol in an unmanageable way.
Well, and here's why I say it's just another day. And you work a good program, Mac, and I'm proud of you for doing that.
Thanks.
But it's just another day.
Okay. I believe you.
Because here's why I say that. Because if I look at it any other way, my arrogance is going to take over, my ego is going to take over, and right back out I'll be.
Yeah, I understand that.
We're all just one character defect away from back out there.
Mm-hmm.
And as most people say, and as I'm sure you'd say, you don't have another recovery in you.
No, I'm too old.
Yeah, no, you're not too old.
I don't have, if I went back out, I don't think there's any way I could get sober again, because getting sober is too hard. Staying sober is fairly easy.
All right, so the first time he got sober, what was that like? And again, in the end, what a great ending this story is going to have. Mike's my guest. Lila's here. I'm Mac, and you're listening. And I thank you for that on KTIA.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wonderscheid.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
Welcome back. It's Recovery Monday on this gorgeous day here in United States of America. Lots of problems around the world. Who knows what's going to happen in the Holy Land? Is this the rising of the big bear in Russia? North Korea? I mean, just a maniac in charge. All over the world. Issues. And we don't know what's going to happen next. So all I ask for you is your prayers for all of these people across the world that are caught in the innocence of madmen and egomaniacs and power-hungry people. The people that are caught in the middle. The one that the death toll counts. The one that both sides say they're not responsible for. And yet the egomaniacs and the power-ridden monsters use those innocent people as shields and as body bags. It's just unfair. But that's the life we live. And with Christ at the center of it, we know how the ending comes, no matter what these crazy people do. So thank you for your prayers. Lila Stafford in the house. Ryan is producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. My special guest is Mike. He'll have his 8-year sobriety chip here in a couple weeks. Would have had 13 years. But let's talk about the first time that you got sober. What happened that made you finally put the plug in the jug?
This is going to sound a little cosmic maybe, and I don't mean it to, but my life was basically at the bottom, which anybody in recovery knows we have to get to the bottom to go anywhere.
You were like 29, 30?
28.
28, okay.
And I had basically burnt all my bridges, and I was living in a place very similar to the Randolph up in Fort Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a cousin of mine, well, he's actually married to my cousin, who was working at one of the local recovery centers. And he had been sober for a couple of years. Somebody that I really looked up to, had taught me how to work in multi-track recording studios and do all that stuff. And I just called him. I said, JJ, I can't live like this anymore, man. And that night before, as I told you, my brothers passed. My older brother Phil was killed in '88, victim of gun violence. And my brother Ray died in '91, a motorcycle accident. So anyway, I'd been on a bender for a couple of days, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and as God is my witness, I swear to God, they were sitting in the chair looking at me. Like, you got to stop, dude. So I called JJ, and he come and got me. And I did the detox. I wouldn't agree to go to inpatient because that was going to mess up my job, and I had to have money. So I agreed to do outpatient. So I did that, and my cousin Shar, who I love to death, said, will you please go to a meeting? Will you give it a try? Okay. So I did, and then I just didn't like the first couple because, again, I didn't fit in. I know you guys don't believe it, but I am shy. I remember the first couple of meetings I was in, I just sat back in the corner, didn't introduce myself, didn't say hi, sat there and chain smoked cigarettes. I wasn't going to do it. Mm-hmm. I was the same way at school dances. But after about the 5th or 6th meeting, I found a couple of people that I actually knew that I used to run with. And then so it became easier from there. And I did it. And one of the weird things about that round of sobriety is about 30 days after I was sober, the place I was staying burnt to the ground, and I lost everything I own. I mean, everything.
Whoa. Really?
Yep.
Wow.
I ended up getting taken out of a 2nd floor window by a Fort Dodge police officer. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today, and that's the truth. Because the fire was coming. It was coming through my door.
Oh, my gosh.
And I literally lost everything I owned. And I remember when I hit the ground, it was so funny. I laugh about it now. I looked at the police officer and said, anybody got a cigarette? Sitting there. I'd been inhaling black smoke for 10 minutes. I'm like, anybody got a smoke?
So you stay sober for 8 years.
Yeah.
And you were serious about your sobriety.
I stayed sober for 5.
Or 5 years.
Yep.
Because when we worked together, you were sober the whole time.
Yep.
So what made you go back out and do more research? What made you give up sobriety and go play again?
I was living across the street from this bar up on 6th Avenue in Euclid, and I'd pass by it all the time, and I was probably just lonely for company, looking for a place to watch football. I'm a football fanatic, and I forgive you for being a Nebraska fan. But
no forgiveness sought, but thank you.
It is what it is. I'm a diehard Hawkeye fan. But I want just company, you know what I mean? And so I thought, well, I haven't done any drugs forever. I haven't drank forever. What if, we're smarter than the disease, right?
Right.
What if I don't do any of the drugs and I just drink? Yeah, I can do that. So that's what I did. And as I was telling Lila, before we went on air, that worked for a while, for about a year.
Okay.
And then my life just slowly went back to where it was.
That's always the case. It's a progressive disease.
Yep.
and it will get worse.
Now, you moved to San Diego for a while.
Yep.
Were you sober in San Diego?
No.
No. Okay. All right. I just remember putting you on the bus to go to San Diego, and I to be honest with you, Mike was one of the first people that I knew that would talk about sobriety and alcoholism and everything like that. And like I told Mike, I was drinking and I didn't think I had any problem. Did you think I was an alcoholic?
I didn't think you were an alcoholic. I thought you had some other issues that needed to be dealt with. I'm trying to be kind.
You don't have to be kind. That's all right.
Look, okay, you and I have both been in radio all our lives. And truth be told, and one of the reasons I no longer do it is because it does affect my recovery. It affects who I am and who I become.
Yeah.
It's an industry full of egomaniacs with inferiority complexes.
Yep. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a person trying to work a good program and be the exact opposite of who I used to be, that's the last place I need to be.
So before we hit the next break, what happened that you decided to try sobriety again, this time for the second time?
Same thing as the first time.
Bottom.
Deja vu.
Here in Des Moines?
Yep.
Okay.
I was sitting up at the top floor of the Hotel Randolph, and it was a summer night, and I had just had it. I'm like, look, I'm either going to die or something because I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore.
And you never had girlfriends. You've never been married. You have no children.
Not steadies, no.
No, okay. So once again, you were alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think isolation is one of the biggest problems for people to start drinking.
And see, that's unfortunate for me because I like being alone.
Did you have a job at the time? Or did you just get fired from a job? Or
I was working, but it was a penny ante job where, telemarketing job where, oh, you're a convicted felon? Come on in, sit down, we'll put you to work. One of those spots.
What were you a convicted felon for?
I wasn't, but the people that I was surrounded by.
Yeah.
So you're surrounded by that element. But hey, as long as I had enough money to pay the rent at the Randolph and support my drinking habit and have a little food, I was cool.
Yeah.
I was just existing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you hated doing telemarketing.
Oh, I still do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I was literally, and this is the truth. I lived on the top floor, so I crawled out onto the fire escape and was thinking about crawling up on the roof, and I was going to jump.
Whoa.
And then I thought, well, that wouldn't be fair.
Fair?
Mm-hmm.
Fair to who?
My mother.
Oh, because she had already lost 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't going to make her lose another.
Mm-mm.
All right, we're going to take our last break. We'll have 8 minutes when we come back, and we'll talk about what happened 8 years ago. That Mike finally threw it in, put the plug in the jug, and it stuck for 8 years. But boy, did life change. And it also includes an incredible woman that he now calls wife. We'll talk about that when we come back. I'm J. Michael McCoy. This is Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC. And I said this earlier, and I want to tell it to you again. You now know somebody in recovery, somebody who's out front, who doesn't hide behind anonymous. And I'm not putting down anyone. I said that wrong. Someone who doesn't choose to be anonymous. Lila and I don't get an opportunity to be anonymous. I don't know what your story is. Mine was God just said, no, I'm sorry. Because I had every intention of being anonymous, quietly going to meetings. So I even thought one time I'll just never say anything and nobody will recognize my voice. And it was God that said, no, I'm going to use you because I need somebody out there front, kind of like that movie, And so you now know somebody. And I'm giving you permission, Lila's giving you permission to call us, contact us.
I'll tell you, my life is so good, I want people to know.
Yeah.
That's why I speak out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So give us a call. Lila is at Powell CDC. My number and contact information is all over Facebook and all over my website at macmccoy.com.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, what's wrong? Logan wants Let's Rock Elmo for his birthday, but since Steve lost his job, I don't think we can afford it. What did you do for money last year when you and John were struggling to make ends meet?
My secret? I went to Me and Mommy to Be. We sold all of Megan and Ryan's clothes and toys there. They give back the highest percentage on their items in the area, and it was so easy.
Megan's clothes? She's 15.
Yes, they can sign newborn through trendy teens. We're not struggling now, but I'm gonna keep saving and making money at Me and Mommy to Be.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Recovery Monday on this gorgeous week. We thank you for listening. Lila Stafford is my co-host. Ryan is producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. And my very special guest is my longtime friend, Mike, who is just about to celebrate his 8th year in sobriety. In fact, Mike and I are going to take a little road trip up to Fort Dodge because he likes to get his chips up in Fort Dodge where it all began. So it's a Saturday meeting, you said, right?
It's Saturday noon.
Yeah. And
it'll probably have to wait till September because I'm having surgery.
How far is it from here to Fort Dodge?
90 miles, hour and a half.
Oh, I thought it was a couple.
Hour and a half?
It's halfway between here and the lake, I know.
Because I think I'll pick him up and then bring him to our 9 o'clock meeting on Saturday, and then we'll
Yeah.
drive straight to Fort Dodge.
Cool.
So anyway, so it's 8 years ago, and you're sitting in the Randolph Hotel contemplating suicide, and you decided you couldn't do that because your mother had already buried 2 boys, and you weren't going to make her bury another.
Mm-hmm.
So who'd you call this time? Was it your cousin JJ again?
No, I called my longtime childhood friend, Michelle.
Okay.
And I told her what was going on, and believe it or not, her and her husband got in their car, drove down to Des Moines, and came and got me.
Oh.
And then where'd you go?
I stayed at their house for a couple of days.
Okay.
Because we had to do some trickery to get me into the treatment center.
Okay.
Because you had to be a Webster County resident.
Okay.
So I stayed at her house for like a week, so then I was technically a Webster County resident again.
Oh.
And I also knew some people at the treatment center because I had been there before. So then I went into CFR up in Fort Dodge.
And you went in as an inpatient?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did you stay?
30 days.
All right. And when you got out, were you a consistent member of the 12-step program?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you worked the steps.
Yes.
How many sponsors have you had in the last 8 years?
2.
2 on your second.
Yeah.
And what was different about this 8 years than the previous time?
Because I was doing it because for different reasons. I think now that I look back on my first round of sobriety, I got clean and got sober and did the right things, played the game to get the things I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And like the great job, like working for you and, you know, being recognized for my abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I had to get clean and sober to get those things. There was no other way it was going to happen.
Okay, I want to ask you a strange question, and if you can't answer this, I respect you, but what would have happened if you had been drinking and you would have been working for me?
I probably would have quit long before I did.
Okay. What would I have noticed about you differently?
Mm-hmm.
No, what would I?
I probably would have I actually probably would have cared less about my job.
Because you were a pain in the butt. I mean,
That's because
really...
I care so much about what I do.
Okay.
You know, my grandmother Barnett always told me any person can do something halfway. If you can do something, do it right.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. So this time you were doing it for you.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep. I was doing it for me, and I knew that I had to remove all ego, and I just had to do it. And in part, I saw this time what it was doing to my mother. She was getting older, and I just thought it was time. I really don't have another explanation than that.
One of the things that we have in a 12-step program is ego stands for edging God out. And there's another one.
That's the one I remember.
Okay.
But
Edging God out. And when you think about it, that's exactly right. You make
Yeah.
yourself your own idol, and you're kind of the biggest thing in life.
I used to put signs around my house that say, "There is a God and you're not it."
Yeah?
Yeah.
To remind myself.
All right. Well, out of this round of sobriety, for the first time in your life, well, I don't know if it's the first time, but you fell in love.
Yes.
And you fell in love with a woman who had twice the sobriety you did.
Right.
And so she understands you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you nice to her?
Yes. Not always. I'm not perfect, and I'm a perfectionist. Let's be real. You know, it's the same thing. You know, we're different people. We have different
But
personalities.
you married way up.
Oh yeah, there's no question about that.
Railroad ties miles high to the sky and back.
That's not even up for debate. That's 100% true.
So she's got 16 years sobriety.
16, 17.
16. Who's counting? Like
Right.
the last
After
year
when
was.
you get that far, you know what I'm saying?
You've been married for 10 months now.
Mm-hmm.
How's the first 10 months of marriage?
It hasn't been easy.
Because you've never lived with anybody, right?
Not ever.
Ever.
I was 48 when we got married.
Okay.
Oh, I think that it's hard to get married and get used to somebody, but if you're 48 and have never been married, I think it would be very difficult.
It was, and I'd never even lived with anybody.
Yeah.
You never had a roommate?
Ooh.
I had roommates, but you know,
Yeah.
Not females.
no.
No.
Yeah.
And it's it's been difficult, but the rewards I get are so much better.
Yeah.
The things I get in return, and one of the things I love about my wife is that she's worked with the people and worked in the field she's in. She works in the recovery field. Oddly enough, for the same treatment center where I got sober, that's one of those cosmic things that you and I were talking about
Because
earlier.
you didn't meet while you were in recovery.
No.
You met 6 years later.
Right. Actually, I'd been sober 2 years.
Oh, 2 years. Wow.
When I
So you guys dated for almost 5 years.
Yep.
Whoa.
Why did it take you so long to get married?
I'm scared to death of marriage.
Are you still?
Little.
Okay.
I mean, my dad was married twice. My mom was married 3 times. It's not hard to figure out why I'm scared to
Yeah.
death of marriage.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. So what have you learned in marriage?
That life is a compromise.
You didn't think it was before?
Well, if you
yeah, but
only
I
have
wasn't willing to
yourself.
make that compromise.
Yeah.
And I still have trouble with compromise.
So do I.
It's because, and I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I know I'm smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to voice my opinion unless I've got the facts to back
Oh,
it
and you've
up.
got an opinion on everything.
Sure, I do.
You do.
I know I do. I don't deny that.
I told him today, I said, don't you become a nag. I said, nags are not just people who wear skirts.
Oh,
Men
Lord.
can be nags just as much as women can.
Well, it's one of those things where I'm super good at math. I'm super good at dealing with the household finances. I'm super good at solving problems. She's good at other things. She's good at English. She's good at understanding my cerebral palsy. It doesn't bother her because she used to work in a home with mentally retarded people. She gets mad at me when I get down on myself, when I can't figure something out. Again, I'm my own worst critic. If it's not perfect, I'm upset.
Yeah.
And your cerebral palsy continues to get worse.
It doesn't necessarily get worse, but I am having health issues that I haven't had over the last couple of years. I've been on disability for about the last year, which breaks my heart. And if I keep talking about it, it's probably going to make me cry.
Yeah, I know you really struggled with that for a lot of years.
I don't like it.
And you've got major surgery coming up here in a week.
Yeah.
Going to have your gallbladder out.
Yeah.
And you have liver cancer in your family.
Yep.
Or gallbladder cancer.
It's pancreatic cancer.
Okay. And so that's obviously a concern.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm running this interview after Mike's gone, what was the great thing about life?
For me?
Yeah.
I got to do all the things I wanted to.
And
there's only 2 things left in this world that I want to do that I haven't done. You know what they are? Bungee jump and parachute.
Okay.
Oh.
And what do you want to be remembered for?
Being kind.
Being kind. Okay.
Cool.
All right, folks, you just met one of my loves of my life, Mike. He's 8 years sober here in a week, and he's going to get his chip. And he is the epitome of what a tough program can be like and how tough you have to be to get through it. Lila, thanks for being here today. Ryan, thanks for producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and as always, I ask just one thing of you. Think of that person you don't like. Think of that person you carry a resentment against. Think of that person that makes you angry and hurt and mad. And tonight, drop to your knees and forgive them. Just pray.